I had 14 surgeries, 23 blood transfusions. I spent 2 months in hospital and it took me 4 years to learn how to walk again. The moment that I climbed up that wall to the moment that I fell was literally like 2 seconds. And my life was like, poof, and I dragged myself to the swimming pool and I threw myself in. My name is Caroline Danielle Leon and I've been in the UAE a very long time, over 15 years, and I'm originally from Australia. I have been into adventures my entire life. Since I was little in Australia, I've been very adventurous, traveled a lot, but actually it was only after I had a really life-threatening rock climbing accident, after I healed from that and recovered from that, then I started to kind of really start getting even more adventurous, if that's possible. So in 2015, I had a rock climbing accident. I was in Dubai on an outdoor rock climbing wall and I climbed to the very top of the wall, and unfortunately the peg that I was holding onto came off and I fell about like 12 meters from the top of the wall. And I had 14 surgeries, 23 blood transfusions. I spent 2 months in hospital and it took me 4 years to learn how to walk again, so it was pretty intense. The moment that I climbed up that wall to the moment that I fell was literally like 2 seconds, like, and my life was like, just, it changed dramatically in 2 seconds. My family were petrified at the beginning. I was told that I was never gonna walk again. And at the very, very beginning, because I lost so much blood, I was in hypovolemic shock. So I remember the doctors telling my family that if I survived the night, it was gonna be like a bonus. And then after I survived the night, it was like, okay, well, now she's still alive the next day. There's a huge possibility that I was never gonna walk. There are different stages of kind of my mental journey through everything that happened. At the very beginning, I was in a hospital bed having a really major reconstructive surgery every couple of days. So I had both my feet reconstructed. My right foot had come out of my body, so it was put back inside. My right leg detached from my body, so they had to reattach it. I had my right pelvis reconstructed, my pubic bone reattached, and I had part of my spine that exploded and they removed it, and then I was implanted with an artificial segment of spine. So most of the time you're on morphine and really not totally aware of what's happening. So it's really like hazy, like you're so drugged out and so in shock and very sleepy. And I remember picking up a book and I actually couldn't read the word in front of me. I couldn't read the word and I couldn't read the sentence, and I didn't remember the end of the sentence by the time I got to it. So it gives you an idea of how that first part really was. After I spent 2 months in hospital, I was released and I went home, and my family made a hospital room out of my living room. And so I lived in a hospital bed for another year, learning how to sit up, learning how to go to the bathroom because I was in nappies, learning how to move in a wheelchair, how to move to a commode. At that part, things were very dark, I have to admit. So a standout moment, I had just started going to hydrotherapy. So I couldn't walk, I was in a wheelchair, and I remember my physiotherapist would pick me up and put me into a swimming pool and strap me with all of these floaties, and he would just hold the back of my body and he would walk around the swimming pool and I would just float. And it was beautiful, and it was the first time that I thought, oh, like I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Equally though, it was kind of the seed for the worst moment that was about to happen, because a few weeks later, I was at home in my hospital bed, and at this time I realized that I could commando crawl. I couldn't walk and I couldn't move any of the bottom of my body, but I could drag myself with my arms. So I lowered the hospital bed to the floor and I dragged myself to the swimming pool and I threw myself in. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh, I definitely want to die right now. and this is the only way out that I can see. And this is the easiest thing because I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just like get myself to the swimming pool and I can just drown because I know I can't float. And interestingly, when I went into the swimming pool, I had nappies on, and my nappies floated, and so they kind of had a little bit of buoyancy. And I remember feeling the bottom of the pool, and even though my feet were a mess, I just tapped the bottom of the pool, even though I didn't want to be alive, but it just happened instinctively. And my head came to the surface and I was screaming and moved. I managed to get myself to the edge of the pool, and then I just put my elbows on the top and I just waited. And at this stage, this is very early in my recovery, I was at home alone during the day. After that changed. I wasn't allowed to be at home alone anymore. I had a nurse supervising me the whole time. But yeah, it was probably one of the darkest and the hardest moments that I had throughout that journey. A piece of advice to my younger self in that moment, honestly, I wouldn't say anything to her because I needed to be at rock bottom. It makes you realize that the stakes are so high. And for me, the stakes are, I'm gonna live in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, or I'm going to get up and get my ass out of this wheelchair and do everything I can to learn how to walk again. I had my spine removed from my rib cage, so I have a scar here. I have like 30 centimeters on the side of my leg. I have one on my back that runs all the way down my back. I had my pubic bone reattached, so I have a scar here. I had traction in my legs, so I have 2 scars here. And then I had both my feet reconstructed, so you can see that. And then here, really interesting. So I've lived here a long time, but people have this misconception of the UAE that it's very superficial and people are very like materialistic. And actually my experience was completely the opposite. Someone at the time had to stay with me every night at the hospital, and it had to be a woman because I wasn't allowed to stay alone. I had a friend come to stay with me every single night for 2 months. And I didn't have insurance at the time. I left the hospital with an insane bill. And my friends also started a GoFundMe. They helped to pay my hospital bills. I had some of my local Emirati friends buy me a hospital bed and a pressure mattress. I was really, really lucky. I had so much support. I had so many friends here in the UAE that actually got me through the darkest moments. And honestly, without them, I don't know how I would have done it. And it's probably the reason that I did do it, to be honest. So I used to, like, if I walked next to a balcony or a high building, I would have heart palpitations and I would start sweating and I would start thinking like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I would just have these crazy, crazy thoughts in my mind at the very beginning. And I remember listening to something a very long time ago, and it was a quote that was like, fear is the way. I think being able to heal requires some sense of courage and some sense of like stepping out of your comfort zones. And I started like climbing mountains, not technical mountains, even though I do that now. And it was kind of a way for me to be out in nature, to be alone, and to deal with all the demons that I had in my mind. And what I remember noticing is that I just had to keep walking, just one step in front of the other, and all the rubbish thoughts were just gonna dissipate, they would go away. I climbed my first mountain after my accident, was about 4.5 years after my accident. And I was with my best friend and we were climbing Mount Kosciuszko in Australia. It's Australia's highest mountain, but it's very little. It's like 2,000 meters. And I remember getting to the top of that mountain. It was the first one and I cried. And the view was kind of crappy, but I just remember feeling like, oh my God, like I climbed a mountain. And this is the funny part, is that I actually couldn't walk down the mountain because my feet were so sore that I cried. My friend put me on his piggyback and then I piggybacked all the way down. That was the first mountain I climbed, but the first mountain that had the majestic views was Mount Ararat in Turkey. It's snow-capped, so it's very, very beautiful. And there's this part of the mountain where the sun is starting to rise, and the reflection on the snow creates like a rainbow. When you are watching the clouds underneath you and the sun starting, it's like the dawn breaking. It's just breathtaking. So most of the time my family was really unaware of the type of climbing that I was doing. But interestingly, recently, I showed my sister a video. So I climbed Mount McKinley, Denali in Alaska, and I showed my sister a video of it. And she looked at that video and she was like, I can't believe you do this. Like, there's a section where you're walking and there's like a 2-kilometer drop on either side, and you're clipped into a fixed line, and it's so narrow, and it's -40, it's freezing. And you're just literally with your crampons on, just looking down and just going, I know it's crazy, but it's also beautiful and wild at the same time. And so when I climb, I'm really cognizant of the risk and being careful, and arrogance and ego I never bring to the table because they're just recipes for disaster. But if I'm following my authentic heart, then it's always leading me in the right direction. And yeah, that's how I'm different. Whereas before, I didn't even know who I was, what I was, why I was climbing. It was just this barrage of rubbish. I'm hoping to climb Mount Everest, but right now I'm just focusing on today. Mentally, how am I preparing that? By not having anxiety about it. Honestly, just baby steps. I don't even think about Everest anymore. I just think about what I have to do today. And at the moment, I'm starting off so small. Like, I still train 2 hours a day, but I'm on a step machine and it's really slow because I can't run yet because of my foot. And so that's what I focus on. I just focus every day that I just have to get on that step machine and I just have to put in my 2 hours. So my advice to anybody going through a physical or mental challenge is really like to feed your mind good things, surround yourself with good people, and to just take one step at a time. What you listen to impacts how you think and how you perceive the world. I started to listen to really good things, and what I mean by that is if I took my headphones off, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm never gonna walk again. I can never have children. I'm never gonna get out of hospital debt. I'm gonna, like, these are the thoughts that I was thinking. And as soon as I put my headphones on and I was listening to Tony Robbins and he was telling me that I was amazing and that I could do anything that I set my mind to, I was like, yes, I can. That's probably the most powerful thing that I can say for other people, is just be really mindful of what you think. And if you realize that you're thinking rubbish, then start to listen to other people who can feed your mind just power so that you can create a different reality for yourself. Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm with Dose of Emirates. So if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe.